In the 6th century, an historian called Gildas writes about a decisive British victory against the Saxons at a place called Badon. In the 9th century, 300 years later, a monk called Nennius edits together extracts from earlier British histories. He records the Battle of Badon as being the culmination of 12 significant victories for British kings that was fought by a warlord named Arthur. The legend begins. A 100 years later, an historical record called the Welsh Annals confirms that Arthur was indeed the victor of the Battle of Badon, and also that Arthur dies in a battle at a place called Camlon. At this time, Arthur was a well-known character in the Celtic tradition of oral folklore.
If there was an Arthur, he would have been fighting Anglo-Saxons during the 5th and 6th century. But because so many writers have written about the story, it's all sort of fuzzy, you know what I mean?
But it isn't until many of these tales are brought together by Geoffrey of Monmouth in the 12th century, 600 years after these events are supposed to take place, that the legend is really established. At this point in the legend's history, Arthur is now a king. He is just and powerful and has an enchanted sword with which he slays giants and conquers Roman armies in Europe. Noble knights aspire to join his court, and characters such as Merlin and Guinevere emerge. Inspired by Geoffrey, French poet Wace includes the concept of the Round Table and also the prediction that King Arthur and his knights will one day return to Britain in its hour of need. Fellow Frenchman Chrétien de Troyes then writes 5 romantic stories about Arthur that involve Lancelot, his affair with Queen Guinevere, and of course the quest for the Holy Grail.
I think it comes from several verbal bases from people from South Wales and people of Cornwall, which were really one tribe, sharing stories together with some stuff that was brought in from the continent, i.e. that we were trading with the Byzantine Empire here on an unprecedented scale, and those stories of Odysseus and people like that would have been included. And I said, oh well, we've got a very similar character. So one wonders if Arthur isn't a little bit of, Odysseus, a little bit of Cuchulainn from Ireland as well, mixed in for good measure.
In the 15th century, a soldier, Sir Thomas Malory, breaks the legend down into individual stories, and William Caxton prints and publishes them with a wider circulation than ever before. In the Victorian times, Lord Alfred Tennyson writes 12 books of poetry, and in this collection, Arthur has become the embodiment of virtue. Today, numerous films have been made about the legend of King Arthur, and it now inspires people throughout the world.